Grandma Rose placed her fork down so quietly that the soft sound somehow silenced the entire table. The clinking dishes stopped. The room stilled. I felt her eyes on me, warm, but sharp enough to make my chest tighten. "Ka," she said, her voice calm but firm, shaped by years of experience. "Why are you still renting that tiny place in Brooklyn? What happened to the studio on West 86th Street that we put in your name?" My throat locked. I tried to speak, but Mom jumped in first. "Oh, that," she laughed too quickly. "The apartment belongs to Jackson now." Across from me, Jackson didn't even look up from his phone. Dad kept eating, chewing slowly, like he didn't want to be involved. Grandma Rose didn't blink. She dabbed her mouth neatly with her napkin, folded it, and pushed her chair back. "Finish your plates," she said softly, but her tone carried more weight than shouting ever could. "Then get your coats. We're going for a drive." Mom stiffened. "Rose, there's no need to make a scene." "A scene?" Grandma raised an eyebrow. "Lena, you haven't seen a scene." Something twisted inside me. The room suddenly felt too small, too hot, like it was closing in with years I couldn't undo. Grandma stood tall, unshaken. "Tonight," she said, "Ka deserves the truth." My chest burned as I swallowed. If you've ever felt a single moment split your life in two, you know exactly what I felt then. And what happened after we opened that door later that night, it didn't come gently. It came like a storm. Grandma didn't speak again until we were in the car. The engine hummed quietly, like it was holding its breath with us. I stared out the window, but her voice cut through the silence again. "I bought that studio for you when you were 16, she said. "Your name was on the deed from the beginning." Mom shifted in the back seat. "Rose, things change." She was barely an adult. It made more sense for Jackson. "For who?" Grandma's voice sharpened. Not louder, just sharper. Dad cleared his throat. "We were managing the property. It was complicated." "No," Grandma said firmly. "It was simple. I gave Ka home." Her words hit me harder than I expected. I remembered my 18th birthday, standing in that empty studio, holding a ring of brass keys tied with a white ribbon. Grandma had placed them in my hand like it meant everything. "You told me it was my anchor," I whispered. "And it still is," she said. "Unless someone has taken it." Mom exhaled sharply. "You're assuming the worst." Grandma kept her eyes on the road. "Tonight, I'm confirming it." The car rolled toward West 86th Street. No one spoke. I still remember the call that started everything. I was 20, juggling freelance work and pretending I wasn't scared of adulthood when my phone buzzed. "Ka, it's me," Jackson said, breathless. "Dorms are insane. I can't afford it. Can I stay with you? Just one semester?" I could hear Mom in the background, encouraging, pushing. I hesitated, then remembered the promise I made when he was born, that I would always protect him. 3 months, I said. Then you find your own place. He laughed with relief. "You're the best sister ever." 3 months turned into 6 before I even realized it. His air mattress became a real bed, delivered without asking. His clothes filled my closet. His gaming setup grew into 3 glowing monitors that lit the studio like a cheap nightclub. One Saturday, I walked in with fresh sheets for an Airbnb guest and froze. Shoes I didn't recognize sat by the couch. Hoodies filled drawers that used to be mine. A faint smell of weed hung in the air. "Hey," Jackson called lazily from the sofa. "Sorry about the mess. Mom said it's fine if I use more space." I kept my voice steady. "More space?" "Jackson, this is my apartment." He shrugged, barely looking at me. "You're hardly here anyway." Something inside me tightened. He wasn't wrong, but hearing it felt like a door quietly closing behind me. That night, as I changed the sheets, it hit me. Jackson hadn't just moved in. I had slowly been pushed out. The money requests started small. Mom called one afternoon while I was working. "Honey, Jackson lost his shift. Can you send $300? Just until next week." Before I could answer, she softened her voice. "He's really trying." A week later, it was his phone bill. Then his car. Then groceries. The amounts kept growing. $400, $600, $800, each one wrapped in Mom's familiar sigh. "He just needs help. You're doing well, Ka." Don't give up on him. So I sent the money, because helping him felt like protecting the studio. My studio. Or at least what I still believed was mine. Then the co-op fees suddenly doubled. What used to be $875 jumped to nearly $2,000. I stared at the notice, confused, then forwarded it to Mom. And that's when everything really began to fall apart. Confused, she replied almost instantly. Don't worry about any of that. I'm handling it with the board. Just focus on your work. You already have too much going on. And I let her, because I wanted to believe she was helping, not quietly tightening knots she had started tying years ago. The truth caught up to me on a cold Sunday morning. I walked into the studio and saw Jackson asleep on the couch, his phone glowing beside him. Something about it felt wrong. I stepped closer and froze. On his screen, a betting app showed a negative balance of $9,400. My breath caught. I took a photo and sent it to Mom. Her reply came within seconds. Delete that. People judge. The call came a few days later, Wednesday afternoon. I was working on a brand project when my phone rang. The number was from the co-op office on West 86th Street. Miss Brooks, the woman said politely. We need your signature on the refinance package. If we don't receive it, the account will become delinquent. I frowned. Refinance package? I didn't apply for anything. There was a pause. Papers shuffled. Your co-owner already submitted the documents last month. My what? My voice cracked. There is no co-owner. Another pause. Longer this time. According to our records, Jackson Brooks is listed alongside you. My heart slammed against my ribs. I never added him. Her tone turned careful. The paperwork we have shows both of your signatures. The refinance total is $290,000. We cannot proceed without your confirmation. My mouth went dry. Send me the documents, I whispered. We already emailed them. I checked everything. Inbox. Spam. Trash. Nothing. When the call ended, I stood in my kitchen, staring at the wall like it might give me back the last year of my life. Only one thought remained, sharp and terrifying. Something was very, very wrong. I didn't wait. My hands were shaking, but I opened my laptop and pulled up the city's property records. I typed the address. The page loaded, and my world tilted. Owner of record, Jackson Brooks. Effective date, 11 months earlier. My name was gone. Erased, cleanly, quietly, like I had never existed on that deed at all. I sank into the chair, the room closing in around me. I called Mom. She answered immediately. Sweetheart, you sound tense. What's wrong? Why is Jackson listed as the owner of my studio? A pause. Then a light, rehearsed laugh. Oh, that? It was easier for him to have stability. You were moving around so much. We handled it. You handled it? My voice shook. Mom, there's a refinance for $290,000. Well, she said casually, your father co-signed. It made sense at the time. No one told me. You worry too much, she murmured. Family can handle things without making everything dramatic. The warmth drained from my body. I hung up before she could soften her voice again, before she could twist guilt into something that felt like love. Hours passed. I was still staring at the screen when my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I'm back in town. We need to talk tonight. Grandma rose. The timing felt too precise. Like she already knew the truth long before I did. Grandma didn't ask questions when she arrived. Get your things, she said. We're going to your studio. I followed her downstairs, my pulse still racing. Mom and Dad were already by the car. Jackson sat in the back, eyes glued to his phone, like nothing mattered. No one spoke during the drive into Manhattan. The silence felt heavy, like a verdict waiting to be spoken. When we arrived on West 86th Street, the doorman's eyes widened. Mrs. Brooks, it's been a long time. Grandma gave a small nod. We're going up. The elevator ride felt endless. On the 20th floor, Grandma stepped out first. She pulled a worn brass key from her purse and unlocked the door. The smell hit instantly. Stale beer. Old takeout. something sour. Inside, 3 strangers sat around the TV, shouting at a game. Jackson shot to his feet. "Grandma, what the hell?" She didn't respond. She walked straight to the table and dropped a thick folder onto it. Papers spilled everywhere. Deed transfers. Forged signatures. A $290,000 refinance. A $180,000 home equity line. Bank statements. Money funneled into offshore betting accounts. Mom gasped. Dad went pale. Jackson just stared, like the truth might somehow rewrite itself. Finally, Grandma spoke. Her voice was low, calm, unshakable, and somehow that made it even more terrifying. Explain. No one did. No one could. Grandma turned to me. Kai, you're not staying here tonight. Pack whatever is left of your things. Then she faced the others. The 3 of you can stay here and think about what comes next. The next morning, Grandma took me to a small cafe a few blocks from the park. She moved with purpose, not anger. Something colder, stronger. Inside, a woman in a navy blazer looked up. Ka, Grandma said, guiding me forward. This is your aunt, Tessa Brooks Ward. Tessa stood and shook my hand, her grip firm. I flew in last night. Rose said we have a situation. Grandma slid the folder across the table. Show her. Tessa opened it, flipping through each page with sharp focus. This signature is fake, she said calmly. The tail on the Y is wrong. The notarization is illegal. And this refinance, $290,000, should never have been approved without you present. Mom's voice echoed in my head. You worry too much, Ka. Family can manage things. Tessa looked up. They didn't manage anything. They stole from you. Grandma placed her hand over mine. I kept all the original documents in a bank vault. The deed, the gift letter, everything. Tessa nodded once. Good. Then we fix this. Quiet title action. Fraudulent conveyance. I'll handle it. For the first time in months, something inside me settled. Not peace, but the beginning of it. Things moved fast. By Monday, Tessa had brought in a litigation attorney, Lauren Park. When Lauren called, she got straight to the point. We're filing 2 actions, a quiet title suit and a fraudulent conveyance claim. Once filed, no one touches that property without going through us. I agreed, my voice steadier than I felt. The backlash came immediately. Mom left 12 voicemails, hurt, angry, desperate. Ka, how could you do this? Your brother will have nothing. We could lose everything. Dad sent long messages about loyalty and forgiveness. Jackson switched between begging, please, I'm trying to fix things, and threats. You'll regret this. I blocked them all. Then came discovery, and it was worse than I imagined. Lauren sent evidence, each piece heavier than the last. Dad emailing a copy of my signature to someone who forged the deed. Mom wiring $15,000 to Jackson right after the refinance. Jackson bragging in a group chat. She'll never notice. Free condo money. Lauren called that night. They left a trail a mile wide. This isn't a fight, it's cleanup. For the first time, I felt the ground shift. Not under me, but under them. The courtroom felt colder than winter. When the judge began reading the ruling, the room went silent. Kaya Brooks is the sole and rightful owner of the property. My breath stopped. The deed transfer to Jackson Brooks is void. All associated debts remain with the defendants. Jackson Brooks must vacate within 45 days. Mom broke down crying. Dad stared at the floor. Jackson walked out without looking back. Lauren touched my shoulder. You got your home back. Grandma squeezed my hand. I told you, sweetheart, the truth stands. When I returned to the studio, it barely felt familiar. Empty bottles. Stains. Damage everywhere. I opened the windows and started cleaning. Then came repairs. Fresh paint, new counters, stronger locks. A fireproof safe bolted into place. Piece by piece, I rebuilt it. Not into what it was, but into something truly mine. Mom sent one final email after their house was auctioned. We have nowhere to go. I replied once. I chose to stop drowning with you. That night, I sat on the balcony with a glass of wine. Grandma's latest postcard rested in my lap. Love you bigger than the sky. Keep the balcony light on. I plugged in new string lights.
Warm.
Steady.
Mine.
They glowed softly over the park. If you've stayed with me through all of this, thank you. And if someone you know needs to hear what it takes to take your life back, share this with them, because the light stays on now. For me, and maybe for them too.